Hi friends, welcome again to my channel. So in this video, I'll tell you what are joins in SQL and what is the purpose of using joins in SQL. Okay, so basically till now we have been discussed various commands, various operators that used to operate on only one table. But in case if you want to get the data from more than one tables and use more than one tables to get the result, so what will we do? Okay, so for this kind of purpose, joins were introduced in SQL. Okay, so joins are basically used with the purpose of retrieving data from more than one tables at the one time. Okay, so now one thing that one must know while using these joins, if we are applying joins on tables, okay, so that tables must share at least one column in common. Okay, for example, if we have taken two tables over here, it is a supply table and it is an orders table. Okay, in this, if we want to apply join on these two tables, then it is mandatory that these two tables must share at least one column in common. For example, in supply table we have a supplier id that tells the id of each supplier name, right? Like this is a supplier IBM, so this is the id of this supplier name. And in this orders table we also have a supplier id. Okay, although its name is different, so it doesn't matter if so. Don't get confused in this thing that same column means that the name of the column should be same. No, it's not so. The column, the purpose of using that column should be same. For example, in this also we are using this column for showing the IDs of the suppliers, right? In this table also we are using this column for sharing the ID of the suppliers. Okay, so we can say that these two columns in these two tables are common. Okay, so only those tables that are sharing at least one column can be joined together. Okay, so this is a mandatory condition for using this join in SQL. Okay, so now, so basically the joins that we are going to use must be there are various types of joins that can be used in SQL. Okay, it's not one type of join, so we will discuss all type of joins one by one. So the very first type of join that we use is equijoins. Okay, so we get an indication from its name also. It is equijoin, that is representing something equality. Okay, so what does it represent? Displays, it displays records, or we can say rows, having match in both the join tables. For example, let us understand this with the help of an example. These are the two tables. So if we try to apply our equijoin on these two tables, this is a supply table and this is an order table. So first thing what we will see is which is a column that is common in both these two tables. So we get the column that is a supply ID, because in this also it is indicating the ID of the suppliers. In this table also this column is indicating the ID of the suppliers. Okay, so what will this equijoin return if we apply on these two tables? As I told you, it will returns all the record that are common in both the tables. Okay, so in this we can see that this record is saying something, telling the supplier name of the supplier having ID 10. Okay, in this orders table we can also see that this first record is representing the data for the supplier whose ID is 10. Okay, so we get a first match in these tables is the first and first record. Okay, because it is also indicating about supplier ID having 10 and this is also indicating about the supplier ID 1. Same in this the second record is giving the name of the supplier ID having 11, and in this also the second record is about the supplier ID 11. And besides of this there is no another record that is having the same supplier ID. Okay, so we can say that, so what it will return if we are going to apply equijoin on these two records, so it will return only two records. Okay, so this is what the result you can see over here. Okay, so this is what the result of this equijoin. It will return these two records because these are the record that are common in both these column tables. Okay, this supply and orders table. Now how do I write this query of this equijoin? So this is the basic way of writing a query using equijoin. Okay, so firstly how do we write? We used to create objects of the table. Okay, here we have created an object of supplier table, that is S, and an object of orders table, that is O. Now we are referring all the attributes of these tables by using these objects. Although we can also write the full name instead of this, but in order to provide more simplicity, okay, to the query, we create these objects. Okay, so we have written, I have select s dot supplier ID, s dot, that is I want to select supplier ID from supplier table, supplier name from supplier table, and order date from orders table. Okay, and in here I have specified the name of the tables where s dot supply ID is equals to O dot supply ID. So this is what the way how do we write a query of equijoin. Now it will return all the tables or all the record that are common in both the tables. So this is what all about a equijoin. One more thing that one must know about this equijoins is that let's suppose there is some record of this supply ID. For example, this is a null. Okay, I'm storing a record in this supplier table that having this data item as a null. We do not have any value in this, so this is a null. Okay, so we will simply write over here it is a null. Okay, and write over here like I have written Tata. Okay, I have written over here Tata. Now one more record I will store in this also. Here is the order ID will be 13 and it is also null. We do not store anything over here. Okay, and 12 Jan 19, right? So these are the two records that I have written over here. Now most of the student get stuck over here that equijoin indicates what? The value that is stored over here must be equal to the value that is stored over here. So if we take this principle in our mind that a value must be same, so most of the students get stuck over here that these two things must also be same because it is also null, it is also null. No, but in this equijoin it is not the case. If it is having a null and it is having a null, it doesn't mean that they are the same things. Okay, so it will not match the null values. Okay, so the resultant table will not consist this record. Understand? You getting my point? Okay, so it's not so if it is null and if it is also null, that means these two records are common in these two tables. Okay, so this is the thing that I wanted to tell you about this null. Okay, so in equijoin these are not considered as the common rows in those two tables. Okay, so this is all what about the equijoin. Now if we represent this equijoin with the help of diagrammatically, so it will be represented like this. Okay, this is a one table, this is another table, this is a supply table, and this is a order table. So after applying this equijoin in those two tables, so what kind of data that we will get? We will get only the data that is common in both these two tables. Okay, so this is the Venn diagram representation of this working of these equijoins. A second type of join is Cartesian join. Okay, so what is this Cartesian join means? Whenever we apply a Cartesian join on the two tables, so it will return all the possible combinations that will make from table 1 to table 2. For example, and this let's say this example, if the table 1 is having 2 records and the table 2 is having 3 records, so the resultant Cartesian join table will consist of 2 multiplied, that is 6 records. Okay, so it is same as the Cartesian product that we have seen when we were discussing joins about MS axis. Okay, so it will take all the possible combinations from table 1 to table 2. So in this one more important thing that we must know, in Cartesian join it is not necessary that the table must share at least one common row. If there is no any row that is common column that is not common in any of the two records, so that can also be Cartesianly joined. Okay, so how do we write a query of this Cartesian join? Okay, so we have again taken the two table, that is supply and orders table. Okay, and we have Cartesianly joined these two tables. So what it will return? The supply table is having 4 records and the orders table is having 3 records, so the total records will be 12. So this is what the use of this Cartesian join.